We'll do a review on Lakutei Sichas and Chelek Yutes, the fourth Sicha for the Parsha Shoftim. In this Sicha, the Rebbe discusses about the Parsha, which talks about the Pishnayim Eidim, Yokum Dover, that two witnesses establish a matter. And the Rebbe goes through many different aspects of the laws of Eidim. There is Eidim that verify, there are Eidim that establish, and when the testimony of the witnesses working? Is it at the time that it happened? Is it when they come to Beis Din? The Rebbe is going to bring an analogy from all these laws of Eidus in Pnimius Yonim as a testimony, Eidus in the relationship between Hashem and the world, and how the Jewish people impact the world and the connection through the various different details of Eidus, as the Rebbe will explain in detail. But first, the Rebbe brings down many interesting points about Eidus, the way it's in the simple halacha, and then he will go into explain to show how this also works in Pnimis Yonim. Aleph. In the inyan fun Eidus, in the idea when we talk about witnesses, Alpish nei Eidim Yokum Dover, the pasuk says, by the mouth of two witnesses, the matter will be established. The Gefindment Zwei Sugim, we find two categories in the testimony or what witnesses accomplish. Number one, Aleph, is Eidei Bir. Those are witnesses to verify. Ledugma, as for example, if you have Eidus Oif Halva, you have witnesses testifying that a loan took place, so that the borrower owes money to the lender who gave him the money. So the act of borrowing and lending money and borrowing money does not require Eidus to obligate the borrower to pay, but the Eidus serve as witnesses that he owes him the money. Their thing is only to verify as is given the halva that there was this loan. But the loan and of its own is not uphanging in the Eidim, doesn't depend on the witnesses. Even if the transaction of the loan takes place without witnesses, so there rests on the borrower the obligation to pay the loan, the obligation, the debt that he borrowed. So, what is the meaning? What does it mean based on the mouth of two witnesses? This matter would be established. Established means as the dover wird festgestellt durch die Eidim, that this matter, this loan in this example, gets verified. It's certified by the witness. The witnesses testified to that certification, so they establish the fact. That means Yokum Dover. They don't establish the loan, they establish the knowledge that this actually was a loan over there. The other category is Eidei Kiyum. Those are witnesses that actually make up that what happening is through the witnesses. L'dogma. Take, for example, Eidei Kiddushim, witnesses that a betrothal took place. V'zeir Eidus is atel for the Kiddushim. They're witnesses witnessing the betrothal, witnessing the Kiddushim when the bride, the groom says to the bride, Harayat Mukudeshesli, that in order for the Kiddushin to take place, there needs to be witnesses witnessing that establishes. That becomes a tail for the Kiddushin, that becomes part of the Kiddushin. Warum der Din is, because the halacha is, as a feel inside the issue, so let's say that the man and the woman say, yes, we were betrothed. I said to her, Harayat Mukudeshes Li, but I did not say it in the present. We don't have witnesses that saw that giving of the ring and making that kiddushin, or they saw they didn't witness the actual kiddushin. And even though they're moida, as a rotir mekadosh given that the man says that I betrothed this woman, but if there were no witnesses at the time that he said that or that he gave her the kiddushin, the law is we don't worry. This is not kiddushin. We don't worry about the kiddushin. The says. So what does it mean? That on a the kiddushin is in talking kiddushin without witnesses to witness that there is a kiddushin there. There is no kiddushin. By them sug edus is the pirush. So what does it mean when the pasuk says, when we talk about witnesses that make up, are part of the makeup of what's happening, the kiddushin? So what does it mean, yokum dover? That they actually established that it is accomplished. And again, the Rebbe will bring this out also in the inner way of the way we establish the presence of Hashem in the ways of bitter and the way of kiyum, as the Rebbe will explain later on. Number two, base mitzadem chiluk hanal, because of this difference, whether they're coming to verify or they're coming to make up to us to make up the transaction or what took place. There is additional difference between witnesses who are verifying and witnesses that are establishing, making up part of what's taking place. When we talk about witnesses that are verifying, since their the idea, their aspect is to verify what happened. When do they become witnesses? When is their function as witnesses? That's at the time that we're verifying. When they come in order to verify what happened, by coming to testify in court by Bezdin. So that's when the witnesses become witnesses. Their main job is to verify when they come to Bezdin. As opposed to when we're talking about witnesses that establish, they make up the Kiddushin, for example, the Baal Zayidin is Oivton, the Maisa Kiddushin, since their matter, what are they here to establish, to accomplish, to make up the act of Kiddushin, Kutuis? So it turns out, so at the time that they are seeing it, they are already defined the definition of witnesses. They're witnesses because then that's when they're making it up. And their meat is that Agachover Mevayer, this explaining this, the Agachover explains, why do witnesses that are testifying for Kiddushin not need the investigative and the questioning that takes place, the Chakira and Drisha, that takes place by other witnesses? But when it comes to Kiddushin, we don't need that. Why? Chakira Udrisha explains that Agachover is Shayet by Zelcha Edim. We can investigate and check out, it applies by such witnesses, because they get their edus. When do they get the definition of witness? When they become edus, mainly in Bezdin and through Bezdin. That's when they become witnesses. They need edus, so they cannot become witnesses, Seiden Bezdin is a freer Chayke unless Bezdin would first investigate them and question them. So otherwise they're not Eidos, because they're only becoming Eidos to verify. So before they can verify, we need the Chikir and Drisha. Mashenke by the Kiddushin, as opposed to when we talk about witnesses that are testifying that they saw the betrothal, over there, they're witnesses that are making up the Kiddushin. So Torah had already made them for witnesses at the time that the Kiddushin took place. At the time, the Kiddushin at that time, in this example, they were already Eidim. They therefore don't need to be investigated and questioned Bezdin. They should become Eidos through that, because they are Eidos from before. They were already Eidos at the time that they saw. Let me explain another halacha which we find by Eidos of Kiyum, which is different than Eidos of Birum. Appear now, based on the above, as Eidos are natil from Isa Kiddushin, that the witnesses are actually a part of the act of Kiddushin. They zayin mekayim di Kiddushin. They make up, they sustain, they make up the Kiddushin. We can also explain was by Kiddushin zokveni toich de dibur kidibur dami. Over there, we don't say the usual rule that within the time that it takes to say Shalom Alecha the dibur is kidibur dami. So say like the person will give Kiddushin, and immediately he says, no, I take it back. Doesn't work. As the Gemara Zok, the Hilchasa, Kedei Toich Kedei Dibur Kidibur Dami. The halacha is that it is within Kedei Dibur, it's like in the middle of talking, so you've not finished your speech, and therefore you can go back on what you're saying. Chutz u'mekadosh u'megarer. The exception is from the other case, and one who gives Kiddushin and one who divorces can't go back on, even if you retract within Kedei Dibur. What is the chiluk tzvishin ala zachen and mekadosh megarish? So what is the distinction between all other matters and mekadosh megarish? Why is it different? So first, the Rebbe brings down the explanation of the Ran, but the Rebbe argues I have to explain it a little bit different. The Ran is masbir. The Ran explains that other matters which are not as serious as a marriage, as a divorce, so when the person does it to start off, he does it with the intent, with the mind, as that he should be able to make a retraction with the Kedei Dibur. So because they're not as serious, so he hasn't really thought it through 100%. So he allows himself to begin with an allowance that he may retract. As opposed to these matters, Kivan the Chamiri Kulahai, since they're very serious issues, it's a marriage, it's a divorce. A person does not do them only if he has full consent, agreement that he really wants to do it. That's why he cannot retract. The Rebbe says that this biur, this explanation still requires explanation. But lifizeh, so according to this reasoning, by other matters, there is no complete decision until after Kedei Dibur. So it basically means that the transaction doesn't take place immediately, but afterwards. It's not like it takes place and then he can charota, he can't do that. The reason is because in the beginning, as the Ran explains, he doesn't really decide that this is it. He allows for himself back out to a retraction. So so therefore it turns out as the Maise werd nit nigbar bizdamu, that this action does not complete until that time, that after the. So therefore, so let's see one person, for example, gives the other person as a gift something to eat, a food item. So the one who receives it is not allowed to eat it. At least to begin with, you have to wait. The Michael is not the You have to wait because it's not yours yet. We don't find that there should be anywhere such a novelty that it didn't take place, and you have to wait before you can eat the gift that you've gotten because it's not really gifted to you until after the Muslim is organ. So we really have to say as by andere Sachen. Also by the other matters, where the meiste nigmar gleich. The act is completed immediately. Not atke de dibur. So you can get there where you gave him a gift of food, you can eat it right away. But we're saying atke de dibur until the time with the diburs to Shoma Lecha Rabbi Hotman, that shir koyach tzucharoto. You have the power to retract. Unmevatel sein de meise, and you can negate and take away the act. Mashenki by Makadish or Magarish over there, you cannot. So why? So, but based on what we said before, with the Edekiyum, we can understand. Is the beer in them? So the explanation is about as by Kiddushin Vigirushin. Since by the marriage and divorce, ver the Maisa Kiddushin of Giton the Edus, the act of Kiddushin is made up through the witnesses. They make of their Mekayim. Is showing of them need be holding for Mekadesh and Megarish. So then it's not anymore in the ability from the one who does the Kiddushin and Megirushin. So Bevatal Zayin the Maisa, you can't negate that action that has been established by the witnesses. About the edus of Giton the Maisa Kiddushin, because the testimony or these witnesses, these witnesses, they've accomplished, they've made up the act of Kiddushin. As opposed by other cases, with the edus too and the Teufel Metzias over there, where the witnesses do not accomplish the fact, the actual thing itself, they're just verifying it. It's only the person alone who is doing it. He is the one that's giving the gift. He is the one that is making the loan. So the riber he can sort of take it away to the riber. So this explains, the Rebbe gives the idea that the Kiddushin and Gerushin are made up through the witnesses. So you're not alone anymore, so you can't negate it even the divor. As opposed to everything else, since it's just you have the power to negate it up to the divor. So now the Rebbe is going to explain it for Nivis and Yoni for Nigla the Torah. All matters of the revealed part of Torah, they are fitting to the way they are in the inner things. Is move on, it's understood. As the Allah even der Monte in Yonim in Edus, all the above mentioned aspects, ideas and Edus. What did we talk about? Number one, we talked about the Tzvei Sugim, Eide Birun Eidikim. There's two categories. There's witnesses that are just verifying, and there's witnesses that are establishing, making up the Kiddush, the Gershon. Number two, we discussed those of us Eide Kiddushin. First, we talked about there's two categories. There's Eide Bir and Eide Kiyum. And then we say Eidi Kedushim are Eidi Kiyum. That's the second point we discussed. And number 3, we discussed that Eidi Kiyum Verem B'Shas Yariyah. They become at the time that they see what's happening. When Eidi Birur, they become witnesses. B'Shas Zeirei Zogin and Bezdin. That's when they become witnesses. And Dalit, this 4th point that we're saying, Amaisev that of Giton, durch Eidus Kiyum, that a action that is accomplished through Eidus Kiyum, hot in sich mer Teikev, has more force that you can't retract it. So all these details that we just enumerated, in Primus Inyonim, are also in the inner matter, the way the ideas are in the inner matter of things. In Posik, the Posik states, Atem Eidai Ne'um Hashem. You are my witnesses, says Hashem. Who's Hashem talking to when he says, you are my witnesses? Seine Faran in Zoyar zwei Pirushim in them. The Zoyar gives 2 interpretations. Aleph, Ilin Yisrael. You are my witnesses is talking about the Yidden. And Beis, Ilun Inu Shemaya Va'aram. These are the heavens and the earth. They conceive, as the Pasuk says, Haidoisi Bachem Hayoim Es HaShamayim Ve'es HaOretz, Parshas Nitzavim, I am going to place today witnesses, the heavens and the earth. So Atameda, you're my witnesses. Either it goes on the Yidden or it goes on the Shemayim Ve'oretz. Yeshleimar, we can say Achditzvei Edus, Yisrael, the Shemayim Ve'oretz, Yisrael, Shemayim Ve'oretz, and the Tzvei Sugi Edus, they are the 2 categories of witnesses. Eidei Birur, Ve'eidei Kiyum, Kidl Kamon. Those are the witnesses that verify, and Eidei Kiyum that sustain. The Shemayim Ve'oretz are the Eidei Birur, but the Yisrael are Eidim that are Kiyum. People come on, I don't understand. Hey, the Alter Rebbe is Levair Barucha. The Alter Rebbe explains at length. What does it mean when we say Eidus, a testimony? Testimony means that something which is not here and you need to testify about it, that is not present. As Eidus is Shayich Nor, when can you say witnesses al dover hanister v'nela me'einei hakoil? Something which is hidden and obscure from everyone's eyes, so you have to testify about it. When everybody sees it, you don't have to testify. But if something that is revealed, you don't need to, das is the shaykh, the region of an edus, doesn't apply there the idea of witnesses. Nachman, further than that, afila ifazach was these, but the vayli is in nigla. Even an item which is presently, temporarily, at this point, it's not revealed. Ober es is amilsa David, it's something which eventually, it's a matter that is destined to be revealed. You don't need complete edus, as edus is dafker. When we need an edus, it's for a matter which is totally hidden, and we don't know about it. We're not going to know about it in the future. What does this mean in the Ruchnis? In Ruchnis, what does it mean? If them was that Eibishter is Mechaya Allah Ilamis, this that Hashem vitalizes all the world, to use the language of Zer Chasidus, Memalik fills the world. You don't need testimony for that. But this is Adover Hanigla. This is something is revealed. When you pay attention to the conduct and the order as the world is being run, as being conducted, Zetman, we see Asido achayis aliki was baleb divel that there is a godly energy, a vitality that vitalizes the world, gives life to the world. The state, as the pasuk says, or maybe sorry, that we can visualize godliness from our flesh as it works by us. As our sages of blessed memory say, just as the soul fills the body, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu fills the world. Since this is something which has to be, we know it. This is not questionable. It's mukhrach, and it's very clear according to logic. To the extent that this belief that the Eibishter fills the world and vitalizes the world also exists by the righteous of the nation of the world, as known. So we don't need testimony to test about them. So that's as far as Memalukul Almim, that Hashem fills the world. We don't need testimony for that. That's obvious. We can see that from ourselves. Like our soul fills our body, Hashem, godliness fills the world. In the Lakusi is also the belief in the blessed godliness which is higher than the world. And use L'Shoin HaZoyer VaChasidus, to lose the language of Chassidus, Soivim Kol Almim. We also don't need edus for that also. That will be in the category of Milsa Davida Ligului. Borom Hagam Azdi Madrege in the Lakus. Kemen nit nemen mitzech. Kemen nit nemen mitzechem. That level of godliness, Soivim, you cannot take it with your intellect. Was is mugbul in dagbolos from Welt, because that is limited. Your intellect is limited by the limitation of the world. Is over der seichel gufa b'chayiv, but the logic, the intellect itself, obligates you, tells you, as es is faram der eireliki, was is hecher for tefillah seichel, that there exists a godly light which is higher than what the seichel can do. So while you can't grasp it, but still, it tells you that there has to be, there is something which is higher than what seichel can grasp. Which means, Nochdem is seichel is machriach as is do der chayes aleki in Welt. After the intellect forces you to say that there is a godly light in the world, in Welt, kommt zu der hakore, then you come to the recognition as loi zehu iker halukis. Because this is not the main part of godliness. Masha ha'olam is mishabim imenu, this that the worlds are created from elukus. Und seinem Faran madreges in elukus, and that there exists steps, levels, and godliness and hecher from Welt and Seichel, which are higher than the world than the river, and therefore is oichav der madregen in shaykh der in Haidus also on that level does not really fit, doesn't apply testimony. Balagama says is nita dover handigla, even though it's not revealed. It's not like Mamala Kulam, which is revealed. Because you cannot take it with your intellect, with understanding. That is in the definition of a matter that is destined to be revealed. Why? This is the level that's beyond the intellect, which is forced out and conclusive from Seichel itself. So that's why it's called like in the category of a Milsa Avidaliglu. Still not Eidus. The Indian for Eidus The idea, the concept of witness is on the essence, blessed essence of Hashem. Which is higher even than the level that surrounds the world. It is in ganzen nicht begettet from Seichel. It is totally not within the boundaries of intellect. Since the blessed Atzmus is something which is totally obscure, totally hidden, is of them shaykhul noitig that inyan for ages. That's why it applies, and it's important testimony. To reveal the blessed Atzmus, we need testimony. Just pum the edus be pashtus. Just as a simple meaning. What do edus do? Is to may it sein, it is to testify and to bring out something which is totally hidden, to reveal it to us. In this case, to take the Ein Sof, the Atzmus, and reveal it. And that is to bring the testimony in the two ways of the categories of witnesses, Eidei Birur and Eidei Kiyum. Aleph Eidei Birur. One is Eidei Birur that verify. As an Nikva geworden in Bria Eidus, it has been set up in the creation witnesses, was weisen auf, that point on seine Megalen reveal, dem Koyach Ein Sof was in Bria, the power of the infinite which is in the creation. Und das seinen Shemayim va'oretz. This is the Shemayim va'oretz. Those are the witnesses that prove and reveal that there is the infinite power in the creation. Shemayim va'oretz, Kidua, as it's known, as the Nitzchi is from Shemayim, the eternity from Shemayim, that the same Shemayim exists, was Kayomim Be'ish, in the not in just many other things that are existence, they exist, the kind. So all these all these animals, the deers, but that particular deer dies, but the kind stays. But the heavens, that itself stays nitzchis. Eretz was kayomim b'min. Over there, the creatures or whatever is in the world, if they themselves don't survive, but the general kind survives, is nor b'koyach ein sof. That comes only from the power of the Ein Sof. Und derfar seinen Shemayim va'oretz edim, and that's why the Shemayim va'oretz are witnesses. Birur of Atzmus Yisborich, they verify of the blessed Etzem. That's the level of Eidei Birur Shemayim va'oretz. Beis Eidei Kiyum is seinen Oichda Edim. There are also witnesses. Moseis gegeben geworden. They were given the koyach, the power to kaviyochu, to so to speak, mamshich zayin atzmusi yisborich endo. They have the power to draw down Hashem's essence into the blessed essence of the world. Al derech ve'edei kiyum was tun oiv de meiser. Similar to witnesses who sustain, who make up the action. Und das seinen the Shomas Yisrael. And those are souls of Yid. Was seinen Mushrish in Atzmus Yisborich, who are rooted in the blessed essence. Und der Far, and therefore haben sie dem koyach. They have the power, durch seir avodah the Torah mitzvahs, through their service when they learn Torah do mitzvahs, to mamshich zayin atzmusi yisborich and belt, to draw down atzmus blessed out in the world. Not only are they verifying that there is atzmus in the world, but they're kiyum, they make up the atzmus in the world. And thus is oich the tam pnimi. This is also the inner reason. Avos eidei kiddushim zayin eidei kiyum. Why are witnesses of kiddushim witnesses that make up the Makai, that make up the Kiddushin? because the tachlis for kedushin and nesuyim, the goal of betrothal and marriage that follows is is to be fruitful and multiply. Was in them inyan von heiloda, in the concept of birth, giving birth, is do hamshochas koyach ha'isov dolamata. Then you bring down, you draw down the power from the infinite here below. The power to have children and children's children until the end of the generation. That's an infinite chain reaction from marriage, from childbirth. It's a continuous. This is the power of the Ein Sof, Kidua, as known. Das heißt, durch Kiddushin wird Evgiton Hamshochas in Heides of Dolamato. Through Kiddushin, you accomplish drawing down the Ein Sof below. Those drickt sich euch with Pashtus and Yonim. So this expresses itself also the simple thing as the Eidi Kiddushim and Eidi Kiyum. That the Eidi Kiddushim, they are the witnesses that sustain, because in the Pneumes Yonim, the Yidden's testimony is sustaining the Ein Sof into the world. Oisvov. Therefore, we verstehen, the Baal Shamayim v'Oretz, since the heavens and the earth seien megala dem koyach ha'ein sof in der bria, the power of the infinite that is in creation, in was besteht the peula und chidush von der edekiyum. So in what consists the act and the novelty from the Edekim, the Shabbos Yisrael, of the souls of Israel, the Jewish people, in Mamshech Zayin Atzmusis Baruch Lemata, in drawing down the essence, blessed essence below, the Shemayim V'Aretz, revealing the Ein Sof. So what does it accomplish? What does it do? The special Gilui, Kiyum, that the Yidden bring down is the clothes. It can be in them. The general explanation of this is Shemayim v'Oretz and Takemeid, heavens and the earth are actually testifying of Koyach Ein Sof in Belt. They testify about the infinite power, the power of the infinite in the world. As is aber nicht in an Eufen, but it's not in a way was wise. As Welt is legamri nit kein Zach for sich, doesn't show that world is totally nothing independent for itself. When is in ganzen bottle to Ein Sof Baruch Hu, and is totally subjugated to the blessed of the blessed Ein Sof. That Oiftu von Eden is, what do Yidden accomplish? The novelty that they accomplished was the tune of the Torah mitzvahs. They accomplished through Torah mitzvahs as is on this Galavern, we see ein oid milvade, that it should be revealed that there is nothing else besides Hashem. The Welt is vereinzigt, that the world is united with Tachlis totally, with Atzmus Yisrael blesses Atzmus. That's what they accomplished. Not only there is Koyach and Sof in the world, but to show that there is no world, there's a independent. It's all negated, and it's all about the Ein Sof, and it's totally united with Ein Sof. Zayin. Klarer das zu verstehen and understand this clearly. Darf man magdim sein. So we need to introduce das was Chazal sagen, this that our sages of blessed memory say. From Posik, Eretz Yora Vishokoton. Film it says the land. First it was fearful, and then it became relaxed. So the sages said, what does it mean, the pasuk? The Tchila Yora. The beginning, it was scared. L'soiv Shokota, and then it's Parmatan Torah is the Welt given in a matzah from Yora. Before the Torah was given, the world was a situation that it was afraid, which means far irki. The sustaining the existence was sort of fearful. It wasn't so secure. Wasn't so sure. Was weiß der Schwachkeit in ihr Metzias. It shows a weakness in the existence. But know them, the Eden of the Kabul given the Torah. After the Eden received the Torah, is given a Shokot. Then it became relaxed. Matan Torah Oivgiton. Matan Torah accomplished Akim the Tekef in the Metzias from Bel. A sustaining and a force in the existence of the world. So basically, Torah makes the world into a Metzias. It comes out. It seems a little difficult to understand. Is l'chayre nit mova? L'chayre is not understood. The Metzias from Welt is doch Geshem b'chayme. The entity, the world existence is physical and material. And was his mailim? That locks Olam from Loshen Helen. Olam comes from the language of obscure, it blocks Oivelakos. That's the world itself. Matan Torah Oivgiton, and Matan Torah has accomplished a chalishus in them Helem ha'olam, a weakness in the obscurity of the world obscures. Und oizgir beidel developed. It made the world refined. It refined the world. K'maimer Chazal, as the sages' blessed memory say, is by Matan Torah, that during the giving of Torah, Tzipor lo tzavach, a bird did not scream. The world was silent. Was the far is davke noch Matan Torah. That's why, because the world was refined through Matan Torah, it is only after Matan Torah kemen helik machadover gashmi ki yidua we are able to make something physical holy. As known, ki yidua. And this Zokman, so how are we saying here, as noch Matan Torah is got geworden a Tekef in Metzias Olam. That after Matan Torah, there actually became a force in the existence of the world. So, hey Nemes, let it be true. As the Eibishter not masne given in my separations, that the Eibishter made a condition with the act of creation as Im Yisrael Mekablim HaTorah Atem Iskaimim. If the Jews will accept the Torah, then you will be sustained. Im Lav, and if the Jews don't accept any Machzir Eschem Torah, I'll turn you into null and void. Is das aber l'chayre blois an inyan neusef of them etzem etzias from Welt. That seems to be something addition to the existence of the world. That something will destroy the world. Not al derech eine was macht dat nay ba'amaisa. Similar when somebody makes a condition when he does something. Amatona case, he gives a gift, he says on the condition. Is that Tanaya Dover Neusef of the Metzema Maisa? That condition is something additional to the essence of the Maisa. Afilu, das was the Kavones Abriya is Bishvil HaTorah or Bishvil Yisrael. Even we say that the creation intention was for the Torah and the Yidden. So that means it's not an additional condition. It is for the Yidden and for the Torah. So the existence depends on the Yidden and the Torah. Is the that also added to the creation. It says bishvil, something else. Of the Metzias from Bria Gufa is not Torah of Israel, but the existence of the creation is not Torah and the Yid. Since that's the case, that so it should be as benegeya. It should turn out that after Matan Torah has been negated to the Metzias from Welt Gufa, the existence of the world itself, what Matan Torah of Giton Achalishis in the Metzias, it should have made, would seem, a weakening in the existence of the world, not Shakota, not make it a strength. When you say Nita Turkey. So the Rebbe is going to explain now a very deep idea, concept over here, that it works differently by a person. The Metzias and the condition and the goal are different, but the Eibishter, it's all one. That becomes the Metzias. Let's look inside this. The beer in them, the explanation in this. Those was mized by a mentioned this that you see by a person as the kavona v'tachlis ha'pu'ula, that the intention and the goal of what he's doing, and the pu'ula gufa and the act itself, two separate matters. He says the far it is because Valbaim is the koyachosar poyel. Because by the person, the potential, the power lacks the actuality. So there's two parts. There's what he could do, and then it needs to be done. The koyach is not ein zach mit poyel. The power to do it is not the same as what happens. Unal derech ze is the kavonas ha'pu'ula. The same thing is the intention of the doing. Abazundere zach from the pu'ula. It's also the power to do it. The intention of doing it is something separate than what you do. By Mevish Nober, by Hashem, however, is ein koyach chaser poyel. No potential power is lacking actuality. The far is the ganze metzias from the poyel. So the entire existence of what comes out, actually, their koyach, that's the power to do so. Now, derech zeh negates the kavanas habriyas, similar is also the intent of creation. As we bow the kavanas habriyas b'shvil ha'torah b'shvil Yisrael, since the intent of the creation is for the Torah for Yidden, zayne zeir emes metzias, they are the main metzias. Not the material and the physical and the material. The Far gefinden sich euch bedient, the Far gefinden euch bedient der Torah. That's why we also find in the laws of the Torah, as merechen sich mit der Kavone von Azach, that you consider, you take into consideration the intent of the matter, und nicht mit sein Geshem b'chomer, and not with the material, the physical, the material. The Dukma by Did, take for example the halacha, where we see that the intention is what's the overriding factor. The halacha is from Amitzi, a person on Shabbos will bring out from the Rishus HaYochid to Rishus HaRabim food that do not qualify or less than the amount that you are mechuyev on Shabbos, but that food is laying in a keli, in a vessel. So then we say that that vessel is potter afala keli. So you're potter for the oichlin because there's less than a shear over there. There's not the amount that would qualify carrying out the food. But what about the keli? We're also potter for the keli. Why? Shakeli tefillah. The keli is secondary to the food. Those haste. So what does this mean? Even though the physical vessel that the food is lying in does have the amount that it takes to carry out, you should be violating almost, it seems like you should be violating Shabbat because it doesn't have the amount. If you would not put the food in it, then you would be chayav for carrying it out. But the bald as the kavone from the keli, since his intention for bringing out the keli from the Rishus HaYochid and the Rishus HaRabim is to lidoichon, is for the food, then the gashmis the metzias from the keli, the physical existence of the keli, bottled the tofetz of the kavone becomes negated, subjugated, and secondary to the intent, to the oichon of the food. Azoi, to the extent that the keli bertatil from the oichon, that this keli becomes part of the food. When you bow the oichon and the pochus mikashir, since the food is less than the amount, Is the keli pachas mukashir? The keli is also less than a shear, even though it's physical. It says a shear. Choch mitzad gash mitzdikim mitzias hotzi dem shear. Although that the physical existence has them shear. Oistas, the Rebbe wants to find now that this idea that the whole existence from the world is Torah, the Shvil Yisrael, but is still by the Eibush, is Torah also in Halacha, in Nigla. Yet that in the Pnimis HaTorah, every idea that we have in the inner part of Torah is not called Ponim Beremes. So at least in a way, by way of a hint, Oich in Nigla, the Torah also in the real part of Torah. Similar in the above mentioned idea. As the ganze Metzias from Welt is Torah Yisrael. This that we're saying that the entire existence for the world is Torah in Yidden. Gefitnanas become a coming in Nigla. We'll find it in several places in Nigla. I call Porim Berem as in a hint, the way we're in. Ledugma b'Toysus, we found it in Toysus. The din is, the halacha is, as kishem ve'ein Shoftim kochim b'yontiv. You're not allowed to burn kochim on yontiv. On yontiv, you can do only meleches oichel nefesh that you need for a human being. But kochim that became tamei that you need to burn, there's no purpose for the human, so you have to wait until after yontiv. You can't burn on yontiv. So we say that just like ain't certain kochim b'yontiv, while this is nor tzorich gavoy, it's only meant for Hashem. Nit tzorich hedget, not for the needs of a ordinary, not for people. Azoy tormen nit verbrennen truma tmei b'yontiv. So truma that has become tomei on yontiv, you're not allowed to burn it either. Why? Because truma tmei you have to burn. But the din is that truma tmeya, while you're burning it, you can cook a pot under it and you can make a fire of it. So frek toises asks, frek toises, about as we make no verbrennen to truma, since we are permitted to benefit from burning the truma, the truma nitorn verbrennen. So why should we not on Yom Tov be permitted to burn the truma la sika tachas tafshilei? Let's put it under your cooking food. Use that to as the cooking agent to cook the food. Was done is in them farana tzedek nefesh. Then there is a need for human consumption. So why do we say that you're not allowed to burn truma tmei on Yom Tov? Toisus entfert. What does Toisus answer? Since there is also a need, you have to burn it because Trumat made the din is you have to burn it. So the need for the ordinary becomes negated and subjugated for the need of Hashem. It's as if it's all for Hashem, and therefore you can't use it, even though you want to use it for tzedek nefesh. What does this mean? The pashtus for the tzedek says what? Simply, we need to explain this. This requires explanation. Why would the need, that since you need to burn it from Hashem, why should it negate and take away the tzedek hedjid? But Vapia now is this movement, based on the way it's understood. Bald as the emes emetzias von alle Sachen, since the true existence of all matters in Welt, everything in world is Torah Yisrael. That's the real matter. Is b'shas menutz the zach leitir kavona v'tachlis. So when you're using it for its intent and purpose, which means mekayim itir a mitzvah, you do a mitzvah, you're doing a mitzvah, you're burning the kachim. So when you do a mitzvah, fault up, it falls by the wayside. When that bottle becomes negated, the chitzonis the kemetzias from here, its external existence. As life nor tachlis the kemetzias the mitzvah. All what remains is the goal, the mitzias, is the mitzvah of the far. Therefore, bal the kavona v'tachlis from the serif is truma. Since the intent and the goal of bringing and burning to Mr. is for Hashem, but the Mela but with Tzerechedya, there is no Tzerechedya. That's what Tosfos says there. So you see how the physicality gets negated, it gets put away, because when we have the essence, when we have the kavanah, when we have the tachlis for the mitzvah, then everything goes to the wayside. Yud. According to this, the question becomes on the other hand. Similar to the question we asked before Sivov. Those was the Kavonas Habriya is B'Shil B'Shil Yisrael. The intent of the creation is for the Torah and for the Yidden. Those was the Kavonas Habriya is B'Shil Torah B'Shil Yisrael. That the intention of creation is for the Torah and the Yidden. That has not been accomplished at the time of the Torah. This is the Kavonas Habriya Mitchiloset. That is the intent of the creation from the beginning. Taken by the Bria is Dosir Ganze Metzias. As soon as it was created, that is the entire existence. So what was accomplished by Matan Torah was to lead them is Davke Demol die Welt gekommen zu Matan V'Shekota. What came then? That only then by Matan Torah the world became to this situation that it calmed down. Is the beer in them? The explanation. Those was the ganze Metzias from Brias, Veloizir Kavana. This, that the entire entity of the Brias, just its intention, is Mitzad Lamaila. This is from the perspective of above. From the Hashem's perspective. The Baldas by him is Ein Koyachosser Peil Kenal Sivchas. By him, no power is lacking the actuality. Ober Mitzad Nivroim, but from the perspective of the created being, the power is lacking the actuality. The head, it's not sensed as a lakus is the ganze Metzias from Welt, that godliness is the entire existence of the world. The Tachlis HaKavona, the ultimate intention is as is on this Galev and Nimshach werden in der Bria Mitzad Welt Gufa. The ultimate intention is that it should be revealed and extended in the creation. Mitzad Welt Gufa, that the world itself should be able to sense this. The ganze Metzias is Torah Yisrael. That's entire existence is Torah Yid. Was dann wird Welt vereinzigt Melakus Begilui. Then, if the world recognizes that, then the world becomes united with godliness openly. Euch Mitzad Welt also from the perspective of the world. And der Far is Davke b'Matan Torah geworden Eretz Shekota. And that's why specifically by Matan Torah the world came to its relaxed state, its strength. Far Matan Torah, before Matan Torah is Mitzad Welt Gufo sich nicht ongezem begili kishu b'Torah Yisrael. So the world, we didn't see openly the connection from Torah with the world's connection with Torah was not said, it was not open. The Faris, the Geshem from Welt Gevem Etatekim. That's why the physicality of the world was with a force. Al derech hakeli farzich. That was like the vessel beats before you put in the food into it. Was the shirei tzois like Geshem keli kanal simches. Then the amount of how much is the amount for taking out is measured by the physicality of the vessel. By Matan Torah is gegeben geworden der Koyach zum Megale sein in Welt. By Matan Torah, there was given the power to reveal in the world mitzido. From the world's ir emerson mitzias, her true existence. The Father is geworden Shokota. That's why it come down. Yudalef, Apikoanal, based on the above, it verstehen. The Chilik zwischen dem Edus, der Edus von Shemayim Ba'aretz, the difference between the testimony of the Shemayim Ba'aretz, the Eidei, Birun von the Shamas Yisrael, and from the Shamas Yisrael in Kim. Ibal does the Sava Kodesh Baruch Hu Yisrael Dir B'Tachtoinim, since Hashem had desired to have a dwelling place below in Tachtoinim, Sadirim main doch Tzatz Musis Baruch Adirim means to the essence, blessed essence, is the Chazoy Givarim B'Poyel. So that happened in actuality. Al derech we get Frier Sivches, we say it in Frier Sivches. Earlier in Sivches, that ain't Koyach Choser Poyel. As Atzmusi is Baruch Hot Adir B'Tachtoinim, that he has a dwelling place below. And those in the Nitzchis from Shemayim Ba'aretz, that is also expressed in the eternity of the heavens and the earth. Was weist of their Koyach in Sobas Faran in Bria. That points to the power of the infinite which exists in creation, Kenal Barucha, as explained earlier at length. The Idochaber, on the other hand, the Baal, das is blois mitzad l'maylo. Since it's only from above, ein koyach chosel poyel from Hashem's perspective, is as in an oifim v'shamayim v'oretz mit koyach ein sof zayin tzvei zacham. So it's in such a way that the heavens and the earth, with the power of the Ein Sof, are two separate. But in order to accomplish that, the world should feel that. In order for the intention to be accomplished, as the that the dwelling place for Hashem's essence should be from the Creator Himself. That's why we need the service of Torah mitzvahs of the Jewish soul. Through them, too, and Ze'oif, through this they accomplish at the Dirim B'Tachtoinim Gufa, that it should be from the perspective of the Tachtoinim, from them themselves, that should be the Dirim. And that's accomplished in Matan Torah. This is also the inner explanation, the inner matter. Was Edekim to an Oifa Toikef in the Maisa, that the Edom, they accomplished the force in the Maisa, Kinal Gimel, they in the Maisa, the Edus from Eden, through the testimony of Eden, that Oifkiton at Toikef in the Bria, they actually accomplished the force, that strength in the creation, Shokota, Kinal Barucha, I said before Barucha, that is accomplished through the key. It's based. We can also explain the difference that we brought out before in Siv base between Eid Bir and Eid Kim. As Eid Kim, the Eidim that sustain the makeup, they become Eidis when they see it. When Eid Bir and Eid Bir only Ershviz and made in Bezdin. When they testify in Bezdin, how to explain this in the internet. The Eidus for Shemayim Va'oretz, the testimony of the Shemayim Va'oretz Atzmon, is nit megalo mamshich atzmusi is v'arechivel, that does not reveal and draw down the blessed Atzmon into the world. V'Shemayim Va'oretz zayin edoch hatel from oilam meloshen helam. They are part of the world which is helam, which is obscure. Those was their koyach hayin sov drik tzuchois in Shemayim Va'oretz. The fact that the power of the Yisov does express itself in Shemayim V'oretz is as nit mitzad zeir mitzias. That's not because of their existence, nor mitzad alakus, because of godliness. Their need was Eden of bekoyach to zen in zei. Eden have the power to see in them the koyach in Yisov, the power in the Yisov. But they are actually part of the world. Und the far oich noch dem edus sagen. Even after their testimony, Hashem's essence, blessed essence, remains something totally obscure, totally hidden. When is there going to be the completion of this verification? The revelation is going to be in the future to come. When the world will reach its ultimate wholesomeness. When the glory of Hashem will be revealed, no flesh will see. But the koyach in Sophos is faran in Shemayim Va'oretz. So then the power of the infinite which exists in Shemayim Va'oretz This Galav and everybody is called Bosa. That will be seen by all flesh. Will be able to see the Ein Sof, which is in the Shemaim Boris. So that testimony is really going to come out eventually. But the Eidus from the Shabbos Yisrael is as verkehrt. But Eden's testimony of the souls of Eden is the opposite. Those was Eden sein the Mamshich Atzmos durch their Aveda. This that Eden draw down the level of Atzmos through their service. That is accomplished immediately when they do the mitzvah. The Osid Love that not is Galaver and those was Abgiton in Gantim is Vanagolus. The future to come, it will be revealed everything that has been already accomplished in the time of God. Just as we have this idea of the testimony of God. It also exists in the service of man. So service which is logical, based on reason and rationale. But this is something which is revealed. And it's clear that that you know that you have to do this Aveda. Above this, there's a higher level, hecha from them. He's an Aveda l'mayv service beyond reason and rationale. The Aveda was verbunden mit Mesiras Nefesh. That's an Aveda that's connected with self-sacrifice. But also in this, there can be that service in such a way as is nit inyan ha'edus. That's not the idea of edus, even though it's beyond, but it's not like a testimony. It's still tied and connected with the limitation of seichel. Since Mesiras Nefesh was his oizgimosten, it's a self-sacrifice which is measured loit the dinim for Shulchan Aruch according to the laws of the Shulchan Aruch. Of jeden inyan machtar ha'cheshbon. Of every matter he makes a calculation. Am I obligated according to Shulchan Aruch to self-sacrifice or not? The Echta Avodah is the highest level. It was mitzadet tzuglu b'mukai. For an Eden to Atzmusis Baruch, because of the tie, the connection from a yid to the blessed essence, it's the etzem and neshama, because the essence of the soul is zayin Mesiras Nefesh onkein hagbolos in on cheshbonos. It's without any limitation. It's without any calculation. Und auf der Avodah steht atem edai. That level is your my witnesses as durch. Then der Avodah seinen Eden made und mamshich erin so baruch hu dolamata. That through that service, without it, they testify, they bring down erin so lamata, which is the Avodah which is connected to the essence of the Shabbat. Yudal, noch an in them, another aspect matter in it. The Baal, the ganze Metzies from Welt is Kenal the Kavona, since the entire existence of the world is, as said before, the intention Torah of Israel, it's Torah in the Eden, the Kavana kum Torah is Begilu. And when this intent comes out open, that negates and gets rid of the external existence of the world, is the from the hero. So what do we have the lesson? When a yid is going to do a mitzvah, he doesn't have to consider anything. Not with his own existence, or not with the mitzvah, not the other people, other matters. When we are dealing with a mitzvah, then all external matters are negated. The mitzvah that are able to obscure the mitzvah. The ganze mitzvah is not the mitzvah, the entire existence of the mitzvah. That hergish, that feeling, kumbetz the edus and the neshama, the edus of the soul. It's not tamadas from the logic, reason, the I feel it's at the hech from tamadas and even higher than reason. It has a connection. still relay connected somehow. Tamadas, Soibim Kulalmin, surrounded is Doan North of the Metzias from the Vroim. Over there is room for the existence of the Vroim. The Afkim Mitzad Rabbeinu from Etzim Neshama, specifically from the cause of the service of the essence of the soul, what says is verbunden, which is connected and tied to the blessed essence. Ken sich Herren, as the Herz of Vayid were able to sense, and the Yid senses with the ganze Metzias from Welt is Elokus. There, that the entire existence of the world is godliness, Torah in Israel. This is Mesichas Gimel Nisan Tavshin Dalef, Shabbos Parsha Shlach Tavshin Lamed Vav, and Shabbos Parsha Vayishlach Tavshin Lamed Zayin.